You're on.
So California just got out of a 5-year drought. Now, I'm an out-of-stater, so I don't really know what it was like to live through it, but I remember hearing things like it being controversial just for golf courses to use water to keep their greens green. Here's a picture of Lake Folsom in 2015 during the drought, and then 2 years later in 2017 after the drought. And it's pretty easy to see what the effects of having so little rain were on reservoirs and lakes around the nation. And here's a graph of pretty much all the important reservoirs in California. The blue number is percentage of capacity, and the red number is percentage of historical capacity. So if the red number is close to 100%, that means things are all doing fine, and we've pretty much recovered from the drought, which, looking at that, it is. However, where we actually lost the water is somewhere we can't see. We're losing tons of water in our aquifers underground. It's a huge problem. Most of the fresh water in the world, and in California, is underground in huge bodies called aquifers. You get into these by drilling, and pretty much anyone in California can do it. It's unregulated, so a lot of farmers do it, and a lot of private citizens and stuff. My own house has a well because we're outside of city limits, so can't use city water. Now, before the drought, about a third of California water was aquifer water, or groundwater, and 2/3 was surface water. But since 2014, 75% of water has been groundwater, and just a quarter has been surface water. And the effects of this are starting to be seen. Our aquifers are basically just drying. Charlie Font, in a 2009 geological survey, states that wells in Central Valley that used to hit water at 500 feet must now dig down to over 1,000 feet, with wells that cost over $1 million in some instances. And the demand for water is only going up. There's 39 million Californians, and the population grows like 1% each year. The effects are going to be seen a lot earlier in places like China, though, where there's over 1 billion people. Li Yao's 2010 article, Water Shortages Loom as Northern China's aquifers are sucked dry, says that in the next 40 years, China will be unable to feed 10% of its population. And already, a net 120 billion cubic meters of water has been sucked out of northern China that has not been replaced by rainwater. So California kind of wants to start regulating this because of the huge negative effects that pumping out aquifers have. But any legislation wouldn't come in until around 2040. Fred Beringer, in a 2014 news article, Dry California Tries to Curb Private Drilling for Water, stated that some Central Valley farmers have had their land sink up to 18 inches, and other places, even slow, have seen their land sink over 30 feet. And this happens because, as the water is sucked out, the ground literally sinks to fill up the space where the water used to be. And this can cause a lot of environmental problems like erosion, flash floods, and sinkholes. It also permanently decreases the size of the aquifer. Thomas Martinez, in a 2017 report, Mapping Groundwater Level and Aquifer Storage, states that California has lost 6 trillion gallons of aquifer space. And if we stop pumping now, which we can't, we need to pump water, it would take 50 years to refill the aquifers. They refill about 650 billion gallons per year. Each time the aquifers are drained during a drought, it makes the next drought that much worse. Joseph Pullen discovered during the California drought in 1975 that groundwater levels were dropping 10 to 20 times faster than during the previous drought. It's also a huge problem for coastal aquifers. Miranda Motavelli, in his 2018 article, A Comprehensive Evaluation of Groundwater Vulnerability, states that having too much water pulled out of coastal aquifers can cause the flow of water to reverse. So salt water flows into them, which basically just contaminates them, makes them unusable. So what would happen if our aquifers were just completely run out of water, which looks very possible? It would be a huge problem, and not just because we get most of our water from them. If we had to rely just on reservoirs and surface water, we'd run out of water in just 3 years, and there'd be no water left on land for us to use. We'd have to turn to the Pacific and start using desalination plants, which are super expensive. The result of that is water becomes so expensive that we can't even grow crops with it. It can only be used for drinking water. and all agriculture in California just comes to a stop. Then we have to start importing food that was grown here locally, which just kills the economy. And we know all this because it was already seen in another country, in Saudi Arabia. According to a 2017 report by Matthew Mansouri in Does Nuclear Desalination Make Sense for Saudi Arabia, this exact process was seen. Basically, they wanted to grow wheat, and they were using their aquifers to do it. But since they have almost no natural refill, there's no rain in the desert, they were just completely sucked dry. And now they have to use desalination plants. So they can't grow wheat anymore, and they have to import it. So what can you do as one person to, stop a water shortage? You can't really do much, except for just try to use a little bit less water. Matthew Stewart, in his 2013 article, Revealing Shower Water Use, says that showers use anywhere from 2 to 5 gallons of water per minute. So if you take a half-hour shower, that's 60 to 300 gallons of water. Just compare that to what a large person would drink a day, just half a gallon. 600 gallons is a ton of water. And it's kind of hard to argue with, just saying that, I'm just one person and California has 39 million people. It's not going to make a difference if I cut off 5 minutes for my shower. And that is true, but I would just say that, let's say you convince someone else to not do it as well, to cut off the time from their shower. That's double the impact. It's never just one person that makes a huge change. It's always a big group of millions of people just making a small change. I kind of compare that to voting. There's millions of voters that all go out and vote, knowing that one vote is going to change the election, but with their powers combined, with them believing in the election and believing in their fellow voters, they can actually vote someone into office. So with that in mind, I hope maybe you consider taking shorter showers. And I know I will. I'll cut down my showers from 15 minutes to 10 minutes, so it's pretty good.